So, how do you make a game like Row Garden 2 and Roblox Studio? And I'm so glad we can finally have a look at its, I guess, most notorious mechanic, being the stealing system. And I will be keeping it very simple and similar to I did in my premium framework you can find in the description. So let's switch right to Roblox Studio. So we're inside Roblox Studio now, and here's our plot system so far. So we get a plot assigned to us, and it's automatically cleaned up once we leave. We can select the carrot seed tool and plant carrots, like so. But you obviously don't need to have it set up like this, or have any of this essentially, in order to grasp the concept, and then we can harvest it. And inside our script here, we calculate a relative progress, and as soon as it reaches 100%, we set an attribute we use to make sure it has matured yet. With this one being the function we execute whenever attempting to harvest. And as you can tell, we currently filter out all players that aren't the owner, which we will have to change now in order to replicate this stealing behavior. So we can move this maturity check to the very top now. Instead of cancelling right away, we only cancel in case it isn't night, which we can check, using our bindable function we got up here, and our day-night cycle, which you can hear me go more into detail about at the top right during the previous episode. And then after this, everything takes place the same, and give the player harvesting it, be it the owner or a thief, a carrot tool or item into their backpack at the bottom. Let's make sure I'm not wrong. And for this we will have to set this to server and clients, now that I'm thinking about it, and set this to true for instance. So let's see, I'm still able to harvest my own crops even during the day, but it seems I can't steal during the day, which is correct, although we will still have to adapt this proximity prompt. And now as soon as it's night, I can steal it, with the caveat that it is still being granted to the owner, which we have to fix now. So one cheesy way to do this is to just override the parent at the very bottom here, in case it is a thief attempting to harvest. And then in my case, when it comes to the proximity prompt, I have it right here below my carrot template if you will. So this is a perfect use case for the so-called collection system, which acts similar to the attribute system, but it is easier to retrieve all objects having a tag, and also get notified over about new ones being added. So let's add a new tag and go with harvest pp, like proximity prompt for instance, like this. And now inside a local script, like in our case we're already having this one. In here we can get access to the collection system, like service like this, and then set up a dedicated code snippet, a so-called function. And then this makes it easier to set up, for instance, recurring harvests like apples for you later down the line, and also supports various way of structuring this inside the hierarchy. So we get access to the parent until we find a plot, which we tell via the player attribute they have in our case. If we weren't able to find a plot, we cancel, and otherwise we check whether it is the local player's plot, and if not, we change the text to steal. And enabling the thing at the right time so it isn't visible at all times is still being taken care of by the server. And now we can call this setup function for all existing harvest proximity prompts, as well as all new ones being added, like in case a player plants a seed, which we can do like so. Good, let's run this once more, and gotta be fast. This time it says carrot, and this time it is granted to the right players, I should say. And it also says steal for foreign players, while still saying harvest for the local player, like the owner. Perfect. But not sure if you noticed, but in the original, the thief also always has the item selected, so the owner can tell who the thief is. So that's what we kind of need to make sure next. And we also need a way to store the owner it has been stolen from, as well as whether it is a stolen item in the first place. And of course we can set up a separate, a dedicated data structure for this inside our script. But people usually prefer to have as much data as possible, directly inside Studio, whatever that means. So outside the code, for instance, as so-called object values below their players, and this is just an example here. So instead of having a boolean or a number like we did before, inside, in this value field, we have a reference to another instance, like so for instance. Okay, so in our case, we already connect to the player edit event inside our plot script, so we can just add some new code to it and create two new object values, one for the stolen item / tool, and one for when it comes to the steal origin being the respective player. And now inside here we can cancel whenever we're already stealing a tool or a crop, so people can steal multiple ones at the same time. And we can also, like below here, we can store the harvest tool as well as the owner inside those two object values, like the very ones we were just discussing with this example we had. Let's figure out whether it works or not. Okay, so this one's the server view now. We have those steal origin as well as the steal tool object values, you can tell. Those two being empty, which might be correct. Exactly. And this player steal origin pointing to the owner, and its stolen tool object value pointing to the tool. Perfect. And just to make sure, because I don't want to have to retake parts of this recording, and you likely also don't want to end up having bugs. Let's see what happens when I harvest my own crops, quote unquote. Okay, and there we still ignore it, which is exactly what we want. Excellent. Oh, and in case you wonder, I will also link this entire Roblox Studio file inside the description for a download for you. But now, how do we finally force players to constantly hold their stolen items? Let's have a look. So whenever equipping a tool, it is reparented to the player character, which is what we can use. So we listen for new children being added and check whether it is another stolen item in case a stolen item exists in the first place, like given the object value, and then we set it back to this one here. Okay, so we can add this to our player edit function now, like the one connected to this event. And since we still haven't got any access to the character, we kind of need to have this character edit thing in between. The alternative would be to do a breaker, like wait until the player has been added. But let's do it like this. This time around, we wait for the character, get access to the humanoid because that's the thing holding this built-in equip tool function. And then whenever we attempt to unequip an item, so it is being reparented back to this abstract player object here, we check whether the unequipped tool is in fact the stolen one. If there isn't any stolen one, this is equal to null, so we'll fail all the same, meaning we don't need to have a separate check for that. And then we re-equip it, and like it says here, each time we try to re-equip it, it also briefly leaves the player character and gets added to it again, meaning this would call yet another of those events, and so we would kind of end up in an infinite loop. So my way of evading this now was to parent it back to the character before calling this, like manually, and if it is already below the character, we cancel here. So if you mess this up, you will get I think just a normal warning in the console, or maybe an error actually saying, call stack exceeded or anything along those lines. Okay, so what does it look like now? So let's say I'm so hungry or so malicious that I intend to steal this player's carrot. Okay, good to know. As soon as I equip it now, I try to unequip it. Okay, it still works now. Let's figure out why. So what I needed to do was to equip the thing for the first time, if you will, right after stealing inside here. And also, because of the spawn point thing, we had this wait for a character inside player edit, meaning at the time we connected this function, the character was already there. So that's why I had to move this, like a slightly adapted version to it, from here into here. And now this is future Drayden speaking. I noticed during the editing, I also added this section here, because, players can just unequip their current tool by pressing 1 or whatever again. They can also swap to the next one, like having tool 1 equipped and then pressing 2 right away. So this is what this snippet here is meant for, essentially. So the first time we run this, tryout is the new tool the player attempts to equip, and as soon as we re-equip the stolen one, this thing is called again, with child being the stolen one again. So this is why we can prevent the recursion like this time around. So there you have it. And with that, back to original Drayden. And that's already it. Perfect. Don't let yourself be fooled. That's what essentially everyone is facing in the industry. The difference between beginners and the pros is essentially just the way to handle this mentally. That's it. Not gonna lie. And in case you're wondering, how can we add a visual object to the player's hand when equipping an item now? And we're likely gonna take a look at this further in the future, but for now I want to keep it simple and just remove requires handle and add a simple handle inside code. So create a new part, parent it to the harvest tool, and change its name, make it a cube for now, change its brick color to orange, disable can collide and make it massless. So did I forget anything? So yeah, looking good. And you know, I prefer to keep my videos relatively short, but one more thing I want to dump into this, because I know people will find it helpful. How do we get rid of this now? Like this stolen item rather than just quitting the game? Well, for example, we can have an invisible part here like this cylinder as a trigger to sell stolen items. And then just as an example now, and now we can check whether the sell trigger collides or intersects with other objects. Like make sure it is a player. Like if not, this returns nil, and then we cancel here. Check whether the player has a stolen tool, and if so, for now, you know, just destroy it and reset both of those attributes. You know, this one we destroy anyway just to make sure there isn't any broken reference, and especially this one, because, you know, the player reference, this references another player, will still be in place by this point, so make sure to reset it manually, where nil refers to an empty object or no data if you will. So let's give this a final try, hopefully. Oh no, I stole the carrot, let's hope he doesn't call 911. But what happens now? There you go, let's check the references. Okay, all of those being empty now, perfect. Okay, just to make sure, I'm bringing my own carrot now to the store, and I get to keep it, even when entering this sell trigger. So I can now sell my own crap the OG way, if you will. Awesome. And next time we might finally have a look at how we can display like more complex models as tools, like the way I do my premium template you can find in the description. But for now, let me know in case you need help with any of this in the comments or directly, and I'll see you next time when we're gonna take a look at how we can allow players to, you know, forcefully retrieve their stolen items. Take care.